When Threadlings were announced, I was really excited for the potential of them, but they were kinda underwhelming at launch. Well, if you were excited for Threadlings as much as I was, I have some great news because it seems to be that they're going to be getting a buff. Bungie has acknowledged that Threadlings are very underwhelming and high-end content, and they actually plan on changing that for Season 22. So with Bungie acknowledging that, I wanted to put together a heavily Threadling-based build to see how it performs in the current season, because when next season rolls around, it obviously is going to be even better than what it currently is. I will go on and mention that this is by no means a best in-game strand build for the warlock. If y'all would like to see one of those, be sure to drop a comment down below and let me know. But this build is meant to be more for fun and potentially be meta in the coming season. Most of the gameplay you're going to see is from the legendary campaign, so Threadlings can hold their own in that. So with these receiving a buff, I really hope we'll be able to take these into things like GMs next season. So if you're excited for all of those and you found this video helpful, consider subscribing and dropping a like. However, just know that watching the video is way more than enough, and that every single bit of support from you all is truly appreciated. And finally, if you all like to see an in-depth infographic of this build, be sure to head over to Mobalytics. I will link everything down in the description, and you can read over everything over there while I go over it in the video. But without further ado, let's jump into this really fun build. Alright, so starting off, let's take a look at our subclass, and we're obviously going to be running the Threadling Grenade. If you don't know the way this works, when you throw it, it will break off into 3 Threadlings that will track to people and do some damage. What's really cool about the Warlock though is that if those Threadlings don't kill enemies, they will actually come back to the Warlock and perch on them, and you can use them for later whenever you shoot or do melee damage to an enemy. But now that's not the only way we're going to be able to create Threadlings. We're also going to be running the aspect Weaver's Call. So cast your whip to weave 3 Threadlings and deploy any Threadlings you have perched. So not every time you use your class ability, you will create 3 Threadlings just like the Threadling Grenade. So it kind of turns your defensive tool into an offensive tool if you do need to use it from time to time, and it works very similar to the Threadling Grenade. The only difference is this will not proc grenade focused mods or perks, and it also does have the added benefit that if you have Threadlings perched to you, you will release them all at the same time, and you can have this giant army chasing people down. Weaver's Call fits into this build a little bit more in my opinion than say something like Mindsplit Invocation, but if you want to run this so you can perch 5 Threadlings on you after consuming your grenade, you could, but you have to remember these will not take advantage of your grenade focused mods, whereas throwing the Threadling Grenade will actually do it. So that's why I opted to take Weaver's Call, and since you're going to be spamming Threadlings everywhere anyway, I don't think having 5 perched Threadlings is worth it in my opinion. But now another way we're going to be able to create Threadlings is with Thread of Rebirth. So Strand Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create a Threadling. So since we're going to be running a Strand primary weapon all the time, we now can create Threadlings that way. And what's really cool with this said Strand primary weapon is that this does come with the perk Hatchling. So precision final blows are rapidly defeating targets with a non-precision weapon, spawns a Threadling at the target's location, and since this is an enhanced trait, it improves handling. So not every time you're getting kills with your strand weapon with the Hatchling perk, you're going to be making Threadlings when you get precision kills, or if you get rapid non-precision weapon kills. And with the Strand Fragment Thread of Rebirth, you will also have the ability to make Threadlings just with kills alone. These will stack on top of each other, and you can have Threadlings going everywhere with your weapon. Now what's really cool about Rufus's Fury is the fact that this also does come with Demolitionist on it. So when you get kills, you will get grenade energy, and if you throw your grenade, it'll reload the gun. Since you're going to be getting kills with your weapon all the time anyway, this means you're going to get even more Threadling grenades, so your weapon's making Threadlings and providing you energy to throw even more Threadlings. I think Rufus's Fury is the best weapon to pair with this build, but if you have any other strand weapon you'd like with Hatchling, can definitely run that, but having demo Hatchling on it is just extremely nice, so you can have even more Threadlings coming out everywhere. And now for our final couple ways to make Threadlings. Our Super Needlestorm, which is a very good one and done super, it can do a lot of single target damage. It's also pretty good for ad clear. This will also create Threadlings after the initial super does its damage. This is just going to be really good for adding even more damage to whatever single target you're doing, or again help out with ad clear because they will go out and attack enemies. If they don't have any enemies to attack, they will come back to you and perch on you, and again you can use them for later. And then I also want to mention Thread of Generation. So dealing damage generates grenade energy. This is going to be really nice because every bit of damage you do in your kit actually generates this grenade energy, which just means you can throw even more Threadling grenades. So this kind of works in a way to further increase your way of creating Threadlings. But now let's take a look at some ways we're going to buff those Threadlings. Mainly we're going to be running the Fragment Thread of Evolution, so Threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage. This is actually going to provide all your Threadlings that you create from everywhere in your kit a 33% damage increase, and of course it also makes them travel farther to find more targets. So this is almost a must-have if you're running a Threadling based build. Now another way is we're going to be running the Wanderer aspect. So tangles that you throw attach to targets detonate into a suspending burst, and Threadling final blows create a tangle. So the suspending burst from this is very nice to have, but the main way you're improving your Threadlings is now that your Threadlings can create tangles. Also, like I said in the beginning, the Wanderer is going to be receiving a buff when next season starts as well. So my guess of the way they're going to buff it is when you shoot the tangle itself, it will create the suspending burst, but we'll just have to wait and see on what they're going to do to change it. And on another note, Suspend's also going to be receiving a nerf next season, so that can make Threadlings even more valuable as well. I still think Suspend's going to be extremely strong, and since this aspect plays into both Suspend and your Threadlings, this is a win-win for both. And I also want to mention that we will probably also be receiving a new strand aspect next season as well, so that might have a further way to play into it, but for now I think these are your two best in slot. And now for our final way we're going to be buffing our Threadlings is with our Swarmers exotic. This has the exotic perk Swarmers. Destroying a tangle spawns a Threadling. Your Threadlings unravel targets that they damage. So what's really cool about this is now when you destroy tangles, you're going to make Threadlings, which obviously pairs really well with the Wanderer aspect. But on top of that, every single time your Threadlings do damage, they will unravel their targets. Unravel essentially applies a little debuff to an enemy, and when you do damage to that enemy, they will spawn these little green nanites that go out and do more damage. You can pretty much have Unravel up at all times, and it is extremely nice for just doing some extra damage for ad clear and even for bossing. I kind of like to view Unravel as your second companion, where you're going to have Threadlings going out everywhere. You're also going to have these little green nanite flies, whatever you want to call them, flying around too. And with all that, that is the ways you're going to be buffing your Threadlings, so you're getting more damage, you're unraveling targets, and you're even playing into tangles, which are going to be receiving a buff as well next season, whereas the cooldown is going from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. And then for the final things to round out the subclass, we do have our melee arcane needle. So this will allow you to melee an enemy and unravel them. This is going to be really good for just throwing on a boss or a champion if you don't have a Threadling hitting them. You can just add that extra unravel, and you do have 3 charges of this, so you can pretty much always have this whenever you need it, which is very, very nice. And then the final thing we're going to be running is Thread of Warding. So picking up an overpower grants Woven Melt. If you don't know the way Woven Melt works, you're going to get a 60% damage reduction for 10 seconds, and this can be reprocced every time you pick up an orb. Obviously, orbs are everywhere in the battlefield nowadays, so you can pretty much have a permanent 60% damage buff while everything else is going on in your kit. It is extremely strong, and you're pretty much going to run this in any strand build that you're playing. Now for stat distribution, I would always go with 100 resilience to get that 30% damage reduction, and I would go with 100 discipline so you can throw your Threadling grenades even more. If you have some extra stats left over, I would definitely try to get to 100 recovery so you can spam your rift even more to make even more Threadlings with Weaver's Call, but we will have other ways in the build to keep your rift up once we get later into our mods. And then for our other weapons, I would definitely just recommend DPS options, things like Merciless, Apex Predator, anything that is the best DPS for the current season, swap these out. The only main gun you need is a strand weapon with Hatchling, and if you can, I would highly recommend Rufus's Fury. I know this is a raid weapon, but this is the strongest weapon to pair with this specific build. Now I do want to go over artifact perks really quick if you are going to try to run this season, because there are some pretty strong ones. You have things like Improved Unraveling, so this will increase the amount of damage dealt by unraveling a target. Since you're going to unravel things everywhere, you're just going to be doing a little bit more damage, which is nice. You also have Strand Soldier, so your strand weapons gain unraveling rounds whenever you gain Woven Mail while your strand subclass is equipped. Obviously, picking up those orbs of power is going to grant you Woven Mail, so now your strand weapon will also have unraveling rounds. You don't really need them since your Threadlings are making unravel everywhere anyway, but this is just a nice little benefit to have. And since our main weapon does have the Harmonic Resonance origin trait, you can also take advantage of Deeper Origins to improve that origin trait and overcharge Armory, so it always will become an overcharged weapon when that modifier is active. And then for other little general things, counter charge is nice to have, so you can get some armor charge whenever you stun a champion. And squad goals is really interesting, because if you do perform a finisher when you have Woven Mail equipped, you will give your teammates Woven Mail that are around you, so this is a nice one to take as well. But now let's jump over into mods and let's further look at some ways we can improve this. So first off, we're going to be taking a Harmonic Siphon. So Rapid Strand Weapon Final Blows will create an Orb of Power for us. Orbs of Power obviously going to be really strong for giving us armor charge, Woven Mail, anything of the sort. You also get some extra super energy, which is nice, and they will also help your teammates out because they can also play into your orbs. I would also highly recommend running Ashes to Assets, so you'll get bonus super energy on grenade kills. Since your Threadling grenade itself will actually count towards Ashes to Assets, you're going to be able to throw these a lot, so this will just give you some extra super energy. Since Brute Weaver is a pretty good super, I would definitely recommend running this so you can throw them out even more often. Now I also like to run a heavy ammo finder just to generate some more heavy if I ever need it. You can kind of swap this out for whatever you want to, but if you don't really have anything else you want to slot in there, just plop on a heavy ammo finder and you'll just get some more heavy, which is always nice. Now for my arms, I do run a harmonic loader, so this will increase the reload speed of my strand weapons. Since Rufus's Fury is going to be my main weapon, this just means I can reload it a little bit faster just to kill a little bit more enemies, which is always nice. Also, we're running a firepower, so whenever I kill enemies with my grenade, I'll make an orb. This is another way to generate orbs, and again, your Threadling grenade itself will actually dip into grenade focus mods, so now your Threadling grenade can make orbs of power. And then finally, I do like running bolstering detonation, so whenever I deal damage with a grenade, I will get some class ability energy. Again, Threadling grenades will dip into these mods, and this will allow you to keep getting your rift energy up so you can spam Weaver's Call as much as possible, since you're going to spam grenades everywhere anyway. Now for your chest piece, always go with resilient mods. You don't really need anything else to further help this build, so this just help out with survivability. Pairing this with your 60% damage reduction from woven metal and your 30% from your stats, you just become extremely tanky. And then for our boots, I do like to run a recuperation, so whenever I pick up an orb of power, I will replenish some health. So now I'm going to be getting health and 60% damage reduction whenever I pick up an orb, which is very nice. Again, very tanky. And then for innervation, whenever I pick up an orb of power, I will get some grenade energy back, which again is extremely nice. Since your grenade is making orbs itself, this just means your grenade is kind of regenerating your grenade itself, which is very nice. And then absolution, so whenever I pick up an orb of power, you reduce the cooldown of all of my cooldowns. So this just means more rift energy, more grenade energy, and even some extra melee energy as well, which is nice, but obviously it's not like the main thing. Just getting that extra grenade energy on top of innervation is extremely strong. And then for our class item, I do like to run a bomber just to get some grenade cooldown whenever I use my class ability. I'll also run a powerful attraction, so whenever I use my class ability, I'll pick up orbs of power around me, which is very nice. And utility kickstart, which is going to play heavily into keeping our rift up, so whenever I use my class ability, I will get more class ability energy back, and this is based on armor charge, so the more armor charge I have, the more I will get back. You could opt in to take something like a grenade kickstart instead if you want to spam more grenades, but with the amount of grenade energy you're already getting, I do like to play a utility kickstart so I can spam my Weaver's Call even more. So now I have Threadlings coming from my class ability and even my grenade. But that is pretty much the mod setup and the entire build itself. All you're really doing is throwing your Threadlings out as much as possible from your weapon, your grenade, your class ability. You're buffing them in so many ways. You have so many ways to create them. Your super is also a very nice super, and that is another way you can create them as well. Your swarmers are going to buff your tangles alongside even something like the wanderer also being able to buff the tangles up as well. Threadlings are getting a buff, tangles are getting a buff, and the wanderer is getting a buff, and this build already performs pretty well, so you can imagine next season it's going to be even stronger. And now, like I do at the end of all these videos, this is the transmog I'm running. If you were curious, I definitely went for a green look, took advantage of some of the new ornaments. I think they look really cool. Obviously I have the new dungeon arms, the new season pass armor set as well. It all looks really cool. I really hope next season, if they are going to be buffing this a lot, we do get a ornament for the swarmers and they can change the way they look, put some Threadlings on them or something. I think that would be pretty cool. But anyways, that is going to do it all for me. Let me know what y'all think about this build in the comments below. Were you excited for Threadlings when they came out? Are you excited for the buffs of them? I know I am, and I'm really excited to see how this build performs. And I really don't think there is any other build you could play to generate more Threadlings than this build itself. But we'll just have to wait and see how everything will perform in season 22. But I really hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day. Peace.